Okay, so in this video, I'll go over how you would use Microsoft Power BI to analyze your data and summarize them. No, so to use Power BI, there's different. There's an online version and there's a desktop version. It's better to use the desktop version. So to get the desktop version, the quickest way is just go to Microsoft Store. No, you can search online to get Power BI desktop, and but it's going to route you anyway to Microsoft Store, and you can download it there. So I'm on Microsoft Store now. Just go to Power BI, and then in my case, I already have it in my machine. So uh, you once you uh, find it, you're going to download it into your computer, and then you go through the installation process like you would any other files, right? But since I already have it in my computer, I don't need to download it, right? But be sure you download it first before you open it. Okay, so once you've downloaded and installed your Power BI, you can open it. And in my case, usually when you install it, it'll have a shortcut on the desktop, and you can then pin the icon to your taskbar, which I have already done. So I'm going to open from right from the beginning your Power BI desktop. So, okay, so when it opens up, it's going to give you a blank um, um, file, and then you begin. Now, this here is just to sort of when you get started, you use it, but once you get familiar with it, you really don't need it anymore, and you can turn it off. So right now, these are some files that I've worked with. I don't want to work with the previous files. I want to create a new one. So first thing you want to do is you always want to create, save and create the file that you're going to be working with. So in this case, I'm going to go to my direct folder that I'm working with. I've had several versions that I've been playing around with. So I'm going to just create a, sort of the same naming convention and just call it 3 so that I can get started. Okay, so once you've created the file, you're ready to bring in all of the individual file sources that you will use in in um, in your work. No, okay. So when you're creating your using your Power BI desktop to summarize your data, producing your tables and your visuals, you obviously have had to work with your data file first. You did a survey, or you got administrative records. You download them, you look at them for and check for errors and clean them up and store them in the place where you're going to retrieve them using the Power BI. So in this case, I've already done all of that preliminary work, and the source files that I'm going to be using is going to be employee PWS 2022 PBI, and then that's going to be my fact table, where all the transactions are in. And then I'm going to use some other additional files, the NAICS and the sector and the SOC. These are going to be my dimension tables, or code tables is another name for them. I will use to then create a relationship and create a data model. And that from that data model, I will then create my tables in my visuals or my chart. So, okay, so I point that out. I came here so that we can quickly see. Also, I've already opened this file so that we can see what's inside. So this is my fact table, or my employee table. This contains the 5,000 records that I'm going to use in the analysis. And notice that there's sector, NAICS, citizenship, major, SOC major, code, gender, hourly wage, and visa types. So it's always a good idea to make sure that you know where your data files is and what's the content of them. And when you're working, you always make sure that you check to make sure that you're loading the right files before you proceed too far. So these are my other Excel files that are going to be my dimensions in my data model. So this is the NAICS dimension table, and then the sector is economic sector. So again, I'm just showing that I know where my files are, I know where the contents, what the contents are. Okay, so now I'm ready to, now that we know that, let me close Excel so that it's not hogging my memory. And then now I switch to Power BI, and then we begin to import the data. So the first data set that I'm going to import, and I'm going to use the get command. Notice that there's all kinds of format in which your data could be in. If I go more, you will see that there's more. There's like, it's kind of slow. So, okay, so here's your, you can log into folders, into CSV, you go, okay, access, and so on. But what I'm looking for is Excel. So I'm just going to get, and then I'm going to get Excel, and then I'm going to point to the folder that has the file. So there it is. And then I open it, no? So it's going to look into that workbook, and then it sees there's 3 sheets there. The sheet that I'm going to want to import data from is the employees. So I'm going to click on it, and then I check, okay, this is the right. I'm looking at the thumbnails view into the data file. I see that it's the correct one. So I'm going to say transform the data. Again, it's the same process that we use when we use Excel, Power Pivot, and Power Query. Okay, and now let's see, refresh. I'm going to clear that one for now. And then now I'm doing some best practices. So in this case, I'm going to rename and call my table. I'm going to call it employee. Oops, employee. And then I'm going to make sure that the field that I'm working with, I have the right data types, no? So in this case, I see that my NAICS code has been converted as if it was numeric, but actually these are numeric codes only and not for computation. They're really text. So I'm going to go to the transform, and I'm going to change the data type to text, right? Again, this is the same process you would do if you're working with Excel, Power Query, and Power Pivot. And then my hourly wage, these are currency. So again, I'm going to change these so that it's, I'm going to use fixed, and then, okay, replace current ones. And then, okay, so now I see that all the decimals are correct. So, and then I don't have any more changes to make. So I'm ready to load this query, or translate this into a data sheet in my data model. So I'm going to close and load, apply changes, right? And then it's going to pull or create a connection from Power BI to the source, right? And then when it's done, I see that now my data pane here shows me that I have now one table there. Now, okay, so once the data has been loaded, in this case, your employee table has been loaded, you can already start summarizing your data, right? And the simplest one is, of course, to do a single variable analysis. So if we go and look at what are the columns or the fields or variables under the employee table, we see that there's citizenship, gender, and then hourly wage, and then NAICS code, sector, and then, so these are the ones that we know were brought in from Excel, no? So let's say we want to, let's do a simple one, right? So let's start by looking at what is the summary, what are the summary statistics for gender, no? Now, the quickest way is you have to, okay, look at here, right? Here's your visuals here, and you're just going to pick the visual that you want to work with, no? So here in this case, there's charts, but then I want to use the table. Let's create a table first. So if I click on there's a table, there's metrics. For now, let's use the table. Click on the table. Here's your table template. And now it's just a matter of pulling in the right fields that you want to work with, no? So in this case, notice here I have the columns where, okay, so the column that I want to work with is gender. There's two ways you can bring it in. If you just click on the checkbox, it'll know by default to bring the gender variable in, and then right. So if you look on the left here, you see that okay, gender and male and female are the possible values there. No, so okay, that's good. And now let's see. Now I want to do a count of employees by gender. Well, as it turns out, I want to create a measure that I will then use to parse that variable gender. So to create your measure, and this is very important, right? To create your measure, there's three ways you can do that. Look over here, no? If you look on the top, see the new measure icon there. You can also look at the three ellipses to the right. If you click, it'll say new measure here. The other way is just, you can just right click on the top of the measure table, and then you'll see a short menu that pops up, and what you're looking for is you're looking for new measure. So you click there, no? And you do that, notice that, okay, the formula bar for creating your measure shows up. And now I want to do what? I want to do employee count. Now, these are the same measures that we built in the previous video in Power Pivot and Power BI. I'm just recreating them here. It turns out the DAX language that is used to create your formulas under Power BI and also under Excel Power Pivot and Power Query are the same. So once you know how to do those measures here, you will do it in Excel, or from Excel, you learn it there, you can use them here. So I'm going to do a count. Notice that it's autocomplete, so I can count, and then, okay, I'm going to use the hourly wage. Let's use the hourly wage in our, so I'm going to count, and then close the parentheses, and then I want to make sure that I'm using the right format. So here I'm going to click on the, I want to separate the thousands with a comma, so I click that one, and then this check mark here, you can click that one. If there's an error, it'll say there's an error and you have to recode your formula. If it's no error, which is in case we don't have an error, then now you see that when you created that new measure, notice that there's an icon like a calculator icon that tells you that this is a calculated field or a measure, no? So now I drag that here next to gender, and now you see already that here's my table that's already built, right? So it's that quick, right? Now you can customize your table. So to customize it, click on the table space, and then notice that if you come back to your visualization tools, right now your this is to add, and then here is your format. So you go to format your visuals. You click on the format, you'll get a different menu, and now this allows you to customize the table however you wish. So style presents, there's a default for table, but you can notice that you can manipulate these, right? Borders, and then it'll change, right? You can follow this, and right, and then so you get the styles. Then if you go to the values, notice that right now I'm using 10 font size. I want to increase the font size so that for the tables, no? Notice that when I do that, now I come here, I can increase the, right? And notice that, okay, so the values are set differently than your column headers. So if I go to column headers and then increase the font size there, notice that, okay, you see the column headers, right? Increase in size. And let's see, I'm using 21. So, and you can also notice that I can customize the the columns, right? So I just go there, change my cursor into a double arrow, and I customize it. And then if you're here, you can also customize the, right? So I'm gonna put I'll write a line. So there's all these customizations that you can do. You can customize the colors, right? You see. Again, I'm just pointing out the fact that you can do all of these things, right? Depending on how much time you're going to put in and what's your creativity in terms of creating your tables and your visual. Now, let's say, so I have the table, and let's say I want to produce a chart. Well, to produce a chart now, if I want to produce a pie chart, for example, like we did in the previous video, I can exploit this field here, or I can start from scratch and come here and, okay, here's my pie chart. So I click on it. Here's my chart template. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take gender, put it in my legend, and then I'm going to take my count and I'm going to put that in the values. And there's my chart already, no? Now I can move this around on my canvas. Let's see that I increase the chart a little bit bigger, and then customizing it, same thing. So notice that if I want to customize the chart, notice I go to the format your visual and click on it, and then okay, there's two tabs there that you can use, right? So let's say you want to let's say you want to do detail labels. Okay, so I click on that one, and then notice that I can right now the labels are on the outside. No, I can put them inside. If I put them inside, notice that now they show up inside the chart. No, and now you can further customize the display. You want to say percent of total, or you want to do category and percent of total, right? You decide on how those things are going to look. Then you can also, like we did before, you can change the sizes of the fonts. But for now, I'm going to kind of skip so that we can move on. And then eventually, if you really need to, you can come back and you create them, and then you come back and then customize them. So for example, if I want to customize the title a little bit, I come here and it says, okay, here's the title. You can change it, or you can change the header that you're using. You can bold it. You can change the color of the title, right? I'm just kind of randomly doing these things. You can increase, and then for the font size, you can center it. And then for your chart, if you're already including male and female inside, then maybe you don't need the legend on the outside. So you can take the legend out and allocate the space for, right? And again, you can change the color of the slices. So let's see if you want to change this to maybe, right? So female, change the color of that, right? And under detail, again, you can go there and go to the values, change the font size that are used in the values, and so on. No, you can change the decimal position, you can change the unit, and so on, right? But for now, I'm not going to, I'm gonna just point to places where you can go and do the customization, all right? So okay, so now quickly we've already created the table and created the chart that you could use, right? To then use in your result. Now in your tabs, you can change it to something like gender, no? Gender. And then you can add another chart and then give it a different name, no? Now, when you're doing your, so far we've created one measure, right? And that measure was a count of employees. Now, usually when you're doing your surveys or your data analysis, you can use the unit, in which case count or dollars or whatever, or you can use the percent, right? So let's compute the percentage of total employees that you can then parse and use it in our summary statistics. So again, to create your measure, there's different places you can go. Huh? Right now, I only have one table, so by default, the measure would go there. If you have multiple tables, then you need to select the table so that the measure will be built and go to the table associated with the table that you want to work with. So right now, let me go to new measure here as a different way of getting it. And now here's my formula for measure. So now I'm going to say, let's compute the percentage, right, of total. And it's total employees, but to make it so that it's short, I'm just going to percentage of total. And then in this case, you're going to divide, right? So divide, and notice that if I start typing it uses autocomplete, so I can just select, right, whatever it is that I want to divide. I'm going to divide the count, right? So let's see the count of and again, we'll use hourly wage, right? So count of hourly wage, close the parentheses. Now it's going to be the numerator, comma, and then do the denominator. The denominator is going to use a function called calculate. So you calculate the total of the count. So I'm going to calculate count one more time. And then I'm going to say and measure in the hourly wage again. And then I'm going to close the parentheses. And now I'm going to give it a filter, right? There's different filters. For now, we'll use the all. And when you start typing the all, you see that all selected and so on, right? So you can use the all, or you can use the different ones, whatever is appropriate. I'm going to use the all selected in this case. And then notice that you have to make sure that you provide parentheses appropriately, otherwise you're going to have a syntax error. No? So I do that, and then I check to make sure that the formula has been coded correctly. If not, I have to make some changes. And then, okay, so when I'm doing that, notice that the percentage of total now shows up as a measure in your employee table. And now I can use it in producing my summary statistics. So now I have two measures, right? I have the count of employees, and then I have the percentage of total employees. And then let's do a third measure. Let's do an average, right? So let's do an average of hourly wage, a mean hourly wage. So again, if you come here, you can right-click on the three ellipses, or just click on it, and go new measure. And now I'm going to say mean hourly wage, right? So mean hourly wage. And so I'm going to use an average. I'm going to say average, and then I'm going to say average of what I want hourly wage. So I take that and then close the paren, and then make sure that you format it correctly. It's currency, so fine. And I want two decimal, so I say 2 decimal. And then okay, so now always check that the formula was done correctly. Okay, now it's finished. Now if I look onto my data pane, I see that I have now 3 measures, right? How do I know it's measures? Because of the calculator icon. Now I can use those, right? I can use those measures. So if I go back to the employee table, the gender table, for example, I can now add what's the percentage, right? So here's my percentage. I'm just going to click here, and it shows up, and there's my percentage of let me move this over so that I can have, right? Okay, so there's my percentage. And then I can percentage of total, for example, and then I can add my hourly wage. So if I click my hourly wage, there's my hourly wage. Let me again increase the width of the table so that everything shows up. But now that I have the count of employees by gender, percentage by gender, and then hourly wage by gender. Okay, now notice here that maybe if I want to show percentage here, then I have to change that. So I go back to percentage here, And then on my format, I select percent. No, if I select percent and notice that everything is turned into a percent, and then also if I go back to that percent one more time, let's say I just want 1 decimal and not 2 decimal places. So I change it so that it's, and now I have my, right? I have my, um, I have my summary of that gender variable, no? Now, with this, I can quickly produce other summaries of the other variables. So let's say you want to work with visa, or you want to work with citizenship, no? Let's work with visa. So in this case, to do the visa, I can one quick way to do it is just like we did in the regular Excel pivot table. No, I'm going to create a copy of the gender page. So I'm going to say duplicate page, and I change the names. To change the name, you just double click. No, if you just double click right on the tab name, and then type it. So let's say visa. No, let's say visa. I've named it visa, but it's still exactly the same as gender. But now I'm just going to change the fields that I'm using in the table and in the chart, and thereby quickly come up with my summary statistics for the visa. No, so I click the table here, and then notice that when I click the table, here's what goes into the production of the table. Now, let me open my table to see the list of columns or fields. Okay, I want visa, so I drag visa into, right, on my column. I don't want gender, so I take gender out, you see? And now I have my visa table produced already, you see? And what's one good thing about it is once you finalize the table format and you do this, you don't have to format the table all over again. So now I have the visa type, right, summarized. And now I also, let's change the chart. So instead of using the pie chart, you could use the pie chart if you wanted to. In fact, if we wanted to do that, we can just, again, same thing. I'm going to get my visa from here, right? And then I'm going to get rid of and then bring the visa into my legend, and then notice that, okay, I have my pie chart. Now, let's say I don't want to use the pie chart, I want to use an alternative chart. Okay, so let's use the bar chart, right? So I just select the chart, and then I change from pie to bar, and there it is. I'm done with the bar chart, you see? So now, as I said before, it's when you're working with survey data, especially, it's the proportion that you're more interested in than the actual count, right? So in this case, I'm going to substitute. So instead of the count, I'm going to use the percentage, which I've already calculated before, no? So I'm going to take the percentage and put it into the x-axis, and then I'm going to take the count out. So what I'm looking at now is the percentage for that the percentage share of each of the U.S. citizens CW1 and right. Now, again, you can customize the chart. Where do you go to customize? I'm just going to point out, but in the interest of time, I won't do too much customization, right? Those can be a question that you ask when you start actually doing the work. So I go here to the format visual, and then I can go to axis, for example. I can, you see that? I can, we see when I'm bolding, you see. And then if you go to the title, same thing. You can increase the font size used in the title, so you see that, and then bold it, and then you can change the colors and so on, right? Again, that's I was on the Y. You can go to the X and do the same thing, right? The values, increase the, right? Bold it to make it clear, and then You go down to the title and do the same thing. You see, increase it, right? And then so now if you want to go to the general, go to the title, change the font size that are used in the title, right? And make those adjustment, right? But anyway, so now you have the tabular and the graphical visualizations, right? For that other. So in this case, you're done with gender and you're done with visa, and now the rest of it is interpretation, no? So in this case, it's interesting, right? That US citizens are the most. In this case, if I look at the table, it'll tell me that according to my data set, 62%, 61, 62% of all workers in the economy are US citizens, and the rest, which is are 18% were CW1s, and then the rest are other types of visa. So, right. Okay, so, but I leave the interpretation for you because it's not, that comes after you've done your summary statistics, no? Okay. Okay, so now let's import the other tables that we first saw in the beginning and use those to build a data model, and then use multiple tables to produce the statistics that summary statistics that we were working on. So before we do that, let's do SOC, no? The occupational titles. So like we did before, it's easier to start out with an already existing table and then just modify, because I want employee count, percentage, and hourly wage. I'm just going to modify the visa table. So I'm going to right click and create a duplicate, right? And now I rename that so it says SOC. And now, because there's the SOC I know is gonna be a big table, I'm gonna delete the chart and put it on a separate, right? I can copy the chart and reuse it. But for now, I want to increase the size of the table to take the whole page, right? And then I want to substitute the visa with the SOC major codes, and then we'll see what happens. So when I do that, I bring SOC into and then close or delete the visa. Notice that, okay, so here's my SOC major, but these are just the codes and they don't really say too much about, so which specific industry, or rather, I'm sorry, it's occupation. So which specific occupations are these codes belonging to? Well, as it turns out, the code table will allow me to do that. So this is where the power of using Power BI or Power Pivot and Power Query comes, because now I can use multiple data source, create a model that has relationships between multiple tables, and then use the fields from the multiple tables to then produce my summary statistics. If you're familiar with this technology, what I'm talking about is you can build a star schema in the context of a data mart or data warehouse, and then that becomes the data structure and data sets that you're pulling from to create your visuals. So let's then import in. So we know that those code tables or dimension tables are in Excel. So, and we've looked at them before. So I'm just going to pull in this point SOC. So I point to SOC, open it, and then go through the process that we went through to bring in the employee table. So, okay, there's two tables there. The one that I'm interested in is SOC. So I'm going to click on that. And then I'm looking at the thumbnail into the worksheet, and I see, okay, that's the one that I want. So I'm ready to transform the data. So I click the transform, and then I get to do whatever necessary transformation. Notice that what happens is that notice that it says column 1 and column 2, but then the column labels are on the first row. So this is my query editor. No, this is where I do all the transformation. So first I'm going to change, I'm going to go to the here and say use the first row as header. So if I click that, notice that, okay, now the SOC code and major title are now my column headers, which is what I want. And then I check, okay, SOC code is text, that's fine. And then titles are text, that's fine. So I'm pretty much done with the transformation that I needed to do. So now I'm going to close and apply. No, I'm going to close and apply. And when I close and apply, right? So now what's interesting now is at the beginning, I didn't talk about the left side of the screen. No, if you look at now at the left side of the screen, you see here's my visual, a report view, and then here's my data view. So if I go there, I see, okay, here's my employee data, what's inside. And then on the right side, I see SOC. If I click SOC, here's what's the code table or the dimension table for the SOC. No, now I want to create the relationship between the two, and it's going to be a one-to-many relationship. Those of you who work with databases, you don't need to really know databases. You can use intuition and then read up what is necessary for you to really exploit the power of Power BI, for example. So, and then when you lay out your data model, some people prefer to put the transactions table or the fact table on the bottom and then align the the dimensions table on the top or around, usually around it. So in this case, notice that the relationship was formed automatically because of the fact that I used a naming convention that is exploited by the data model engine. So it looks into it, you see SOC major code, and if down here you see SOC major code, and it says, you're going to use that common field to create the relationship, a one-to-many relationship. But you always want to verify, right? To verify it, you double click on this relationship plan and check that, okay, the relationship from employee it's using SOC code, and then SOC table, it's SOC code, and it's a one-to-many or many-to-one. In this case, you over from top to bottom. So, okay, that's fine. The relationship is correct. So what's the significance? So now, if I switch back to my visual and I see that I don't have the detailed titles, but the titles are already in the SOC table that is now linked to the employee table. So now I don't want the code, I want the titles. So now I drag this into my columns here, and then I could, if I want, for some reason, I want the codes to remain as part of my my table, I will leave them there. Otherwise, I can. It's really kind of redundant. I'm really interested in the title, the text title or labels more than I am in the other, right? So, okay. So you see, now we have the major titles by count, by percentage, and by hourly wage. Now, what's good about using these tools is that now I can quickly sort these however I want. So I can sort alphabetically, ascending or descending on the titles, or if I want to see from which title has the largest market share, okay, I just do that and I see that, okay, it's office and administrative support occupations, and then followed by management, and then on down, you see. If you want to know which occupations, major occupations had the highest mean hourly wage, okay, sort it. And then you see from, okay, it's computer and mathematical, and then going down to the lowest for administrative support, you see. So anyway, so that's what was really important here is that notice that you have three measures, and if I want those three measures to appear in all of my tables, I just build one table, and then I exploit that by just making a copy of the table and then changing the variable that I'm working with, and then I have the tables. No, now let's say I want to do a chart. No, let's say I want a bar chart that tells me which occupations have the largest market share. So okay, so first I'm just going to rename this so it says SOC table, right? TBL, and then I'm going to say duplicate that. So I duplicate that. I'm going to call that SOC chart, right? And I'm going to delete these duplicates there. And now, okay, so now you know the trick, right? I have the table. Now I'm going to change the table so that it's a chart instead of a table. So I select the table and I go to my visuals and I click on, I want to use the bar, right? Now it's cluttered and that's because I have too many, right? Measures that I'm using, and I'm really just interested in the market share, the percentage. So I'm going to delete the mean and I'm going to delete the count. So I'm just going to be left with my, you see, and then, okay, so but I really wanted to, the last step that I may want to do is to change the sort order, right? So I'm going to sort, and then I'm going to sort by percentage of total. And then, okay, there's ascending or descending. So, okay, I go back and I change the sort to descending. So I put the largest share on the top and then on down to the lowest. So you can see that as far as if you're using the number or percentage of employees in each of the major occupation to the total and use that to gauge which sector, or rather, I'm sorry, which occupations are the most in the CNMI, then you see that, okay, here's the, from the top to the bottom, based on the chart, you have it. Now, you can further customize this. Like you said, like you already know, right? You can go here, okay, what do you want to customize? You want to x-axis, okay, increase the, right? Change it so that it's bold and whatever you need to do. Want to change it to some different colors, you know, all of that. I would just point out to the fact that you can customize them, and the customization is over here, right? If you go to the X, same thing. You can. We did this already, so I can increase the, right, and I can bold them, and then I can change the colors and so on. So you can go to the general, go to the title, increase the size of the fonts for the title. You can put it in the center. You can change the color to something else that you wish to use, right, and so on. Customization is right, is there. So again, now it's a matter of interpretation, right? In the context of your research, you can go ahead and make your interpretation, no? So let's save this. Now, what you want to do now is, okay, so what do you do with the chart? So now what you do is the chart, it depends on what you're going to do. What is the final destination when you're disseminating your results? So as we've already pointed out earlier, let's say that you're going to want to use this table. The thing with this is that this table is quite long, right? So if you want to change the size so that it fits, you're going to have to do some manipulations, right? You're going to have to reduce the, reduce the kind of do it this way, and then you're going to have to reduce the fonts, right? Reduce the fonts to try to get it so that it fits. So if I go here, how do I reduce the fonts? Again, same thing. You're going to go out and have to come here. Then you're going to, now it's 21. Now you're going to reduce it to whatever, 14. Yeah, so you're changing it and you're looking if, okay, maybe that's fine. So now I do the same thing for my column headers. I'm going to reduce those column headers to about, let's see, 19, 18, right? And then you check, is everything right? And that's how you would kind of manipulate it until it fits. Now, if you're going to present your results using a dashboard, then you optimize for the dashboard, right? If you're using the results for a print, then that would be a different story. You're going to have to copy this or export this chart into a format that you can then bring it into your poster application. So you're using InDesign, you're using Publisher, you're using Word, whichever, then this has to be exported and brought into that layout program that you're using, no? But that's for a different video. Okay, so hopefully what we've covered is good enough for you to get started, right? And or to see how you be able to produce your summary statistics in a tabular and a graphical form, like you can then use in your presentation or the final report. Now, let me encourage you though the reason why I went to Power BI is I wanted to also have you consider, I know the format of the presentation in the symposium is posters, right? But really more and more, the best format is to is some kind of online dashboard, right? And so in this case, if you're using Power BI, then you can quickly just publish your stuff to online, and then when during presentation, you're just presenting your results with your computer online, pulling the stuff online rather than using a poster. So to do that is very straightforward. So you have your visuals down here. Now there's other ways in which you can improve this, but that's for a different topic. Right now, what's more important is that you're able to summarize and produce a tabular or graphical format. But to publish to an online portal where you can then share it in your presentation and your symposium, it's just clicking on the publish button here. If I click on the publish button, save changes, okay, yes, go ahead and save the changes. And now notice that I have my own subscription to Microsoft where I use to do some other work. So I have already a tendency where I can publish stuff into. So I'm just going to use my workspace here and publish the result into that workspace. Now I've tried it so that I'm just going to replace that one that I've published already. So I click replace, and then it's going to go through the process of moving it from my local machine to the online portal. And now I can go to the online portal. So notice that it opens up on my browser now because I'm now going to my portal online. And now here's my results, right? So on the left, you see the pages that I've created, and those pages are the same pages that I created using my Power BI desktop, but now these are results that are now shared online. What's good is that now I don't have to worry too much about because I can scroll, right? If you're using a print format, obviously you cannot scroll through the table, so you're going to have to make sure that the table is properly sized, and then you copy paste into the poster program and then do it. But in this case, I don't have to. I optimize for the screen. And then if I need to, I can scroll and I can make selections of individual items. And then I go to the chart and and then there's those, right? Now, so you ought to consider using a dashboard as an alternative or an add-on to your presentation of your results. Now, unfortunately, for us, NMC has already gotten the go-ahead to have a Microsoft subscription that would allow you to use these tools, but the rollout has not been complete. And so not every student have the access to Microsoft 365, which would mean that you don't have access to Power BI online. So, which is unfortunate, but maybe next time we can use it. Now, there are other softwares that you can use to present your stuff on a dashboard online, like Tableau or Google. Google has a Google Data Studio, do similar things that you can do with Power BI, no? So maybe if there's interest in there, I can do, in fact, maybe I'll plan for some time and put together one for using Tableau is a good one. So maybe we'll do that. But for now, I think this video has gotten pretty long. So hopefully it would help you out in summarizing your research data and present them in a table or in a graphic format. Okay, I'll end this video for now. And hopefully this causes you to, maybe we can have a get together, or maybe you can ask a question and maybe we can get together and try to help you out in your project. Okay, see you next time.